What you know, alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's Monday, September 15th. Hope you're having a good day so far. We are finally going to dive into this affidavit for an arrest warrant for Barry Morphew. When this was released, I think I was in Arizona for Lori Daybell's trials when this came out. Came back, jumped right into Donna Adelson. So this is the first chance I've had to really dive into this. This document is over 100 pages, so it's going to go over a few episodes. I'll weed out things that aren't really relevant to the main story, but I do plan to cover this trial, and this is essentially the backstory for this trial, although I will link the description to a more in-depth backstory I did on this a couple of years ago in the description if you want to dive a little deeper than what this document is going to go into. Let's go through a timeline first. On May 6th of 2020, Suzanne sends Barry a text that she wanted to end the relationship. The text said, "I'm done. I could care less what you're up to and have been for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." That text was found in Barry's phone cache, which indicated it had been deleted. On the morning of May 9th of 2020, there were 59 communications exchanged between Suzanne and Jeff, the man who was her boyfriend at the time. May 10th of 2020, Suzanne Morphew was reported missing. May 14th, there was a reward that was doubled on this date to $200,000. On May 22nd of 2020, the FBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, and the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office sifted through dirt at one of Barry's job sites near Salida. October 7th, Barry talks to CBS News Colorado, where he shows photos and love letters, and he says he thinks Suzanne has been abducted. The next year, May 5th, 2021, Barry was arrested on charges of murder after deliberation, tampering with physical evidence, and attempting to influence a public servant. March 1st of 2022, Barry's attorneys asked the charges be dismissed, saying the arrest of Barry had been premature. And on April 19th, 2022, a judge did dismiss the case against Barry without prejudice, meaning he could be recharged in the future. July 21st of 2022, Barry pleaded guilty to forgery for voting for Suzanne in the 2020 presidential election. He was sentenced to 32 hours of community service and a 1-year deferred sentence. He was also ordered to pay $1,000 in fines and court costs. Fast forward to September 22nd, 2023. We're just coming up on the 2-year anniversary of this. Suzanne's remains were found in the area of Moffett in Saguache County. Her remains were stumbled upon during an investigation into a different case. September 27th of 2023, the remains were positively identified as Suzanne. April 29th of 2024, nearly 4 years after her disappearance, her death was ruled a homicide. And just recently, over the summer, June 20th, 2025, Barry was arrested in Arizona. This was 2 days after he had been indicted for first-degree murder in Suzanne's death. Moving into the affidavit for the arrest warrant, it says that Suzanne took clear steps in January of 2020 in attempts to separate from and divorce her husband, Barry. She told her family and close friends about her intentions, secretly recorded her notes of abuse in her phone because Barry monitored it. She confronted Barry in arguments that she secretly recorded with help from a friend, and finally sent him a text 4 days before she disappeared, saying that she was done, let's handle this civilly. Barry, however, initially represented to investigators that his marriage with Suzanne was perfect and that she had no intentions of leaving him. Barry's statements about his actions on the days before and after Suzanne's disappearance have proven to be false and misleading by this investigation. Barry knowingly destroyed evidence that his relationship with Suzanne was deteriorating and that he was involved in her disappearance and homicide. Suzanne's bicycle and helmet were recovered close to the Morphew residence, discarded before Barry left town in the early morning hours of May 10th, 2020. The investigation to date indicates that these items were not indicative of an accident, an animal attack, Suzanne being a runaway, or Suzanne committing self-harm, or Suzanne being the victim of a stranger abduction. All record checks available to the FBI and local law enforcement indicate, as of April 30th, 2021, Suzanne had not used a credit card, nor her social security number, nor has she been contacted by law enforcement, not flown in an airplane, not crossed a national border, not established utilities or housing, nor otherwise continued in her normal pattern of life for over 355 days. Based on this lack of proof of life, they determined Suzanne Morphew was deceased. Within a month or so of Barry moving Suzanne and their daughter from Indiana to Colorado in April of 2018, Suzanne sent a Facebook message of "Howdy, stranger" to her high school friend Jeff. Suzanne and Jeff, who resides in Michigan, began communicating regularly through 2018 and eventually began meeting each other in 2019. Suzanne traveled to meet him in New Orleans, Indianapolis, Dallas, Michigan, and Florida, where they eventually had consensual sex. By September 2019, Barry took clear steps to determine if Suzanne was having an affair by stalking her at their own residence in Salida, Colorado, as witnessed by Suzanne's closest friend, Sheila. In January 2019, Barry took Suzanne's phone from her when they were at a resort in Mexico while she was talking to Jeff, but he was unable to determine Jeff's identity. On May 8, 2020, Suzanne saved in the notes section of her phone that Barry accused her of having a boyfriend on May 6, 2020. On May 9, 2020, Suzanne's last proof of life occurred in the 2 p.m. hour where she was messaging Jeff with a selfie while Barry returned to the residence. Suzanne did not respond to Jeff's return message at 2:44 p.m. and 2:46 p.m. The same time, Barry admitted to running around their property with a gun and placing his phone in airplane mode at 2:47 p.m. The computer activity or telematics from Barry's Ford F-350, the activity of a cell phone, and statements he made to law enforcement in multiple interviews confirm that from 2:47 p.m. on May 9th, 2020 until 5:37 a.m. on May 10th, 2020, he took steps to dispose of evidence of Suzanne's disappearance and death, creating a false alibi for himself and staging a crime scene. In recent months following the presentation of evidence by FBI agents to Barry, he has changed critical details about his activities in the 2 p.m. hour on May 9th in attempts to match the evidence. Since January 2021, Barry has admitted to chasing a chipmunk with a gun around the house while Suzanne was outside sunbathing, shooting a deer with a tranquilizer dart to explain a dart or needle cap in the dryer, disposing of the tranquilizer solution during his trip to Broomfield following a bull elk down Highway 50 in the 4 a.m. hour on May 10th to explain why his truck would be headed west, where the helmet was discarded. And finally, stating to the FBI on April 22nd, 2021, that he looks guilty from all the evidence and God allowed these things to happen. Barry's involvement in Suzanne's disappearance and death can be organized into the initial scene and interviews, Suzanne's affair and her attempts to leave him, Barry's early statements to CBI from May through June 2020, the evidence recovered by law enforcement, witness statements, and Barry's statements to the FBI in 2021, where he describes what happened to Suzanne when he is shown evidence in the case. They end this section by saying the affidavit includes footnotes that denote critical, deceptive statements and inconsistencies by Barry that are later addressed in the affidavit. So that was the introduction. Now let's jump into section 1, which is the initial scene. On May 10th, 2020, at approximately 5:58 p.m., Chaffee County Sheriff's Office Deputy Damon Brown was notified by dispatch to contact Martin Ritter by phone regarding a possible missing person who also has cancer. Dispatch further informed that the missing person was named Suzanne Morphew and that her husband Barry was driving back from Denver and did not have cell service, where in fact he was at his hotel in Broomfield with cell service. In a separate interview, Martin Ritter told the FBI that Barry said he was at a work site with workers present when he received the final call from Martin. Barry also told CBI agents multiple times that he was at the work site in Broomfield, Colorado, when he received that call and had to drive to his hotel to drop off tools for his workers. The Broomfield hotel video, however, disproved those assertions by Barry. Martin Ritter reported to Deputy Brown that he was contacted earlier by telephone by Suzanne's daughter, who was attending college at Western State University and did not reside at the Morphew residence. She explained to Martin she was concerned because she could not reach Suzanne via telephone or text. She asked Martin to go to the residence and check on Suzanne. Martin's wife proceeded to the residence but could not locate Suzanne, so Martin contacted Barry via telephone. Martin further stated that Barry told him that he also could not reach Suzanne either. Martin told Barry he did not locate Suzanne at the residence, nor could he locate her after searching the immediate area. Barry instructed Martin to call 911 and advised Martin that he was on his way home from Denver. Martin estimated to Deputy Brown that Suzanne went missing between 8 and 9 a.m. the same morning. Another report from Deputy Brown. Deputy Brown attempted to contact Barry at 6:05 p.m. without success, then again at 7:10 p.m. when he spoke with Barry. Barry stated the last time he saw his wife was at their residence at 5 a.m. that morning, May 10th, 2020. He was getting up to leave for Denver for a landscaping job. Suzanne was still sleeping and Barry did not speak with her. Barry advised Deputy Brown that Suzanne had recently gained an interest in mountain biking and began mountain biking on a regular daily basis. Barry advised when Suzanne would bike, she would wear a turquoise in color bicycle helmet with a windbreaker jacket. No other description was given for the jacket. He also described that Suzanne had an iPhone which she would take with her when biking. Barry added that Suzanne was going through cancer treatments and he provided Deputy Brown with her phone number. Deputy Brown and Chaffee County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Mullinax drove to the Morphew residence and turned onto Country Road 225 from U.S. Highway 50 at about 7:31 p.m. They drove slowly, looking along the steep incline along the shoulder of CR 225 for the bicycle. As Deputy Brown turned the corner, he saw a blue mountain bike down near the ravine close to the bottom of the hill, with the front tire pointed downwards towards the creek. Sergeant Mullinax accompanied Deputy Brown to investigate the blue Santa Cruz mountain bike. They saw no indications of a crash. As Deputy Brown noted, the vegetation around the bike was not flattened in the area where a human body would have landed. There was no blood around the bike, nor was there any apparent damage to the bike. Due to the steepness of the incline, the bike should have been damaged if an accident had occurred. When Deputy Brown moved the bike up to the path, he noticed the front brake pad was seized and the handlebars were turned completely to the left, causing the brake cables to wrap around the bike frame. Deputy Brown and Sergeant Mullinax examined the dirt shoulder of CR 225 immediately above the area where the bike was recovered. They did not observe any braking marks or skid marks from a bicycle. Deputy Brown examined the front rim of the bike tire and he observed no damage to the rim or spokes, which he expected to see if the brake had locked and the weight from a rider who would have been going headfirst over the edge. Deputy Brown wrote, "After all of these observations, I started to question if something criminal had occurred, as it looked like the bike was purposely thrown in this location." Meanwhile, one of the daughter's boyfriends, his father, Harvey, and his sister arrived at the residence and assisted with searching the immediate area, finding no signs of forced entry at the entry door or any other points of entry into the residence. Deputy Brown walked through the Morphew residence with, and the name is redacted. He observed the residence was well kept and orderly, with the exception of one guest bedroom. In the bedroom, the bed was stripped of the bedding. Deputy Brown observed in the master bedroom what appeared to be one .22 caliber round of ammunition unfired on the floor next to the bed. He then looked under the bed to inquire where the said ammunition may have come from and observed what appeared to be a rifle storage case. In the kitchen area, Deputy Brown observed a laptop computer and documents scattered near the laptop computer. In the three-car garage area, Deputy Brown discovered two white SUV vehicles, later identified as Suzanne's personal vehicle. At the time of her disappearance, their daughters were on a trip traveling out of Colorado in Redacted's vehicle. Therefore, the sister's vehicle was parked in the garage. He also observed there were home surveillance cameras mounted on the exterior of the residence. Deputy Brown described the placement of the mounted exterior cameras were ideal for viewing any persons or activity coming onto or leaving the Morphew property. Commander Avila brought Barry into the house and advised Deputy Brown they were looking for a piece of clothing from the residence for the dogs to search to locate Suzanne. Barry walked to the master bedroom and pointed to the clothing on the floor in the closet. Deputy Brown observed mountain bike gloves and padded shorts in the pile. Commander Avila took a pair of the shorts. Deputy Brown was walking in the driveway when Deputy DeFurio told him there were barefoot marks inside of the bucket on the bobcat. Deputy Brown went with him to examine and found the cutting blade on the bucket of the bobcat appeared to be newly replaced along with the nuts and bolts. The next report is from Sergeant Mullinax. He documented he was present when Deputy Brown was speaking to Barry at approximately 7:10 p.m. over the phone. Barry said that Suzanne rides her bike on a regular basis and usually leaves between 8 and 9 a.m. In a footnote, it said that Suzanne routinely rode in the afternoons. Upon inspecting the bike with Deputy Brown, Sergeant Mullinax activated his body camera, as did Deputy Brown. Sergeant Mullinax noted the bike appeared out of place. They walked down to the ravine as they called out for Suzanne. They walked a few hundred yards along the ravine without finding anything of interest. Sergeant Mullinax asked Deputy Brown to go to the Morphew residence while he stayed with the bike, which Deputy Brown moved up to the road. Deputy Brown contacted dispatch as they had no cell service and asked the local hospital be checked for Suzanne. Dispatch informed Deputy Brown that Suzanne had not been in the hospital. Sergeant Mullinax asked dispatch to ping the number given for Suzanne's cell phone. Dispatch informed him the cell phone appeared to be off and the last known activity was at 4:23 a.m. on the present day with a general location about 11.5 miles west of a cell tower in Poncha Springs, Colorado. While Sergeant Mullinax was by the bike, Redacted approached and identified himself as the boyfriend of Suzanne's daughter and confirmed the bike belonged to Suzanne. As Sergeant Mullinax examined the bike, he found no scratches or damage to it. About 8:42 p.m., Barry arrived on scene in his truck by himself. He walked up and touched the bicycle and identified the bike as Suzanne's. I may butcher this name. I apologize in advance if I do, but Chaffee County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Claudette Julian contacted the daughter's boyfriend on scene that same date. He reported his girlfriend has told him that Suzanne and Barry argue frequently. He also added he was the one who introduced Suzanne to mountain biking about a month ago. He described her mountain biking skill as an intermediate level. When asked if he noticed anything out of order in the residence, he described the bedding from the daughter's room was stripped off the bed. He thought it was strange because the daughter doesn't live at home. He also thought it was unusual for Suzanne's bike to not have any damage if she had possibly crashed on her mountain bike. The sergeant next contacted one of the daughters who stated she had last talked to Suzanne on the night of May 9th, 2020. She had last seen Suzanne at the end of April 2020. She advised she sent a text message to Suzanne wishing her a happy Mother's Day on May 10th, 2020, but Suzanne had not replied. She also tried calling Suzanne, but the call went directly to voicemail. At that time, she received a call from Barry asking if she contacted Suzanne. She advised him she attempted to, but was not able to reach her. Barry asked to let him know if she was later able to reach Suzanne. She stated Suzanne mountain bikes regularly during the afternoon hours, often using a wide trail across the highway. Suzanne normally took her cell phone, sunglasses, and blue backpack/hydration bladder on the bike rides. She denied any concerns or issues regarding Suzanne and Barry's relationship. When asked if there was any reason Suzanne may leave the area, she denied that Suzanne would ever leave for an extended amount of time. She also denied any recent incidents or concerns between Suzanne and anyone else. The sergeant spoke to the other daughter, who reported she had last seen Suzanne on Tuesday when she went on the road trip. She last exchanged text messages with Suzanne on May 9th, 2020. She stated Suzanne works out at the gym on a regular basis, and recently she had taken up mountain biking daily. She added Barry has mountain biked with Suzanne a couple of times. She also denied any marital issues between her parents and described their marriage as very loving. So we're going to end it here with these initial on-scene reports. On the next episode, we are going to dive right in past the first day she was reported missing, and we will see what we can find in these documents. There are 129 pages, so a lot to weed through. That is it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon, and we will see you soon.